To this computer. Hello, Tobias.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm so happy to see you here, and I'm glad we found a moment for this conversation.
A moment of awe
Yes, I hope.
during the day. That's always good. Yeah,
Yes,
so I'm excited to be on your cast. I like the idea.
great, thank you. So, if you could tell me a little bit more about yourself, your person, not so much what you do, but who you think you are right now.
Well, yeah, I'm an awe-seeking person. I think that's why I'm in the right place. So, yeah, I'm an entrepreneur, artist, and maybe researcher. So I have three hearts beating in my chest, I guess. And yeah, I run an organization called a company called Shift School. So we design learning journeys for people who want to learn how to deal and navigate uncertainty and think differently. So we think from a perspective of self-leadership, we can show people how to better cope with the crazy world we're living in at the moment.
Mm. All right, that sounds amazing. And how long has Shift School been around?
We had our 10th anniversary this summer, so yeah, quite a while in those times. So 10 years is a lot, I guess, and it
Yeah.
has been quite a ride.
Yeah, yeah. Can you tell me a little bit more about your own self-leadership journey, how this happened, and maybe what it has to do with awe? Because I am always looking for this connection.
Yeah, that's a good question. And yeah, so my own leadership journey was is closely connected with Shift School actually, and because I started out on a more rational, very I was born and raised atheist, rational, science believing person, which I still am on the one hand, but I think awe is something that helped me or to rediscover. I was always curious and
Mm.
investigating, but that led me to a point where I couldn't like figure out and explain, especially in, since COVID and all the things tumbling down and all the stuff. And then all changed from a more like scientific curiosity into maybe a more spiritual one
All right.
in a way, and that also has to do with my journey where I, you know, understood or felt, maybe feeling is the better word there, that science and rationality cannot explain everything there is, which doesn't mean that it's, I don't believe in it anymore. But I think there's also another side and something beyond the stories we tell ourselves that we cannot explain, that we maybe viscerally feel, and therefore we need the connection. And I think that's the where awe comes in. Whenever you have that feeling that there is something beyond whatever that means. And I think it's a highly subjective thing that means different things to different people.
Hmm.
But to me, it is whenever yeah, it's more a feeling that enters my thoughts, or when I see something, when I meet people. It also has to do with resonance.
Hmm.
Resonance is a beautiful thing. You can have that because that's maybe the bridge. You can have a physical explanation with resonance when waves and come back and so on, but it's also in a more metaphorical way. Whenever something resonates with you, something coming back
Yes.
from another person, a conversation, a meeting, like
Right.
the two of us now, but it could also be, nature. It could be even, it could be technological, everything. And awe is in all of that, I guess. Maybe
Yeah.
that's a abstract definition, but that's how I feel about it.
Well, that's definitely how I see it. So that resonates with me, the way you described that just now. And I also wonder, in your childhood, you mentioned you are a curious person, so you like to ask questions about things and don't take things as a given. As a child, did you have this curiosity towards life, and how did this unfold into going more beyond the rational and the theoretical and the maybe analytical slash academic side of life?
For sure. First of all, I believe every child has that. And the problem we have in our society, and especially in our education system, is that we unteach people to be curious.
Yeah.
And so that's basically what we do in shift school the other way around to, work with people who have lost the connection to
Mm.
that stuff. But in my particular case, yes. And there of also the spiritual side or the philosophical side. I remember when I was a kid asking God to show up
Mm.
or to explain the universe and asking, looking at the stars and see how that works, and of course not finding it.
Mm.
That innate curiosity, or probably more asking questions and not finding answers, not leading to disappointment, but to refining and digging into the rabbit hole. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. I like how you say that it did not lead to disappointment, but rather actually to more searching, to more, a deeper inquisition, actually. You
And I
call it a
think
rabbit
that
hole. That's quite literal.
Yeah, I think that's how humans are wired
Yeah.
in the first place. I mean, science is like that, and
Yeah.
and it's also and spirituality or metaphysics is that way. And there's so much if you have a humble position to that, and I think we've lost that in society in a way. Once you ask a good question, you better understand that the the amount that you know is so little, and there's
Yeah.
so much more, and it opens up. It's kind of like the universe itself. It's
Yeah.
is the more you learn, the more you understand how little you know, I guess.
Yeah. Isn't it so interesting that the more you learn about it, the less you know, actually, which is
Ex
so paradoxical.
It's paradoxical, but it's, and we that's what we also need to train is that regain that humility of humans not being at the top of everything and explaining and doing and controlling and ruling everything.
Yeah.
And so I think curiosity in its purest form probably also leads to more humility and better human beings, I guess.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, really beautiful. So, if you started out as more of a researcher or an educator, I think you a trainer, educator, how did your environment, your friends, your family, your the people that really knew you as a quite an academic person, or maybe more of a scholarly type, how did they respond when you became more open to the spiritual and to the
Well, I don't
woo-woo, you
know.
could say? Some people call it woo-woo. How did that go for you, that journey?
It's super interesting. I'm still in the middle. I'm still
Yeah.
trying to make sense myself out of it. So it's not that everybody knows about it, but there were always different periods in my life, and I always have been struggling with, the more spiritual artsy side and the researcher rational sides. And what's different now, I think, is that I've come to learn that they don't fight against each other, so
Mm.
that I have the opportunity to create something, the two of them together, that is quite unique. So I'll finding my own way. So I'm never going to be a super religious person for the time being. You never, who knows where I end up, but yeah, I'm trying to make sense or peace with, and on paper, things might be very contradictory, but for me, they are not. It's more an embodied feeling, and I'm fine. And yeah, I talk to other people about that, but I'm also fine that everybody has their own way of things. And I talk, yeah, I mean, a lot of people in my communities are open for that kind of approach, and it's super interesting. Others are not, and that's fine. I
Mhm.
think it's everybody has their own way,
Yeah.
but maybe as I turned 50 this summer, and as people are getting older in general, they're becoming more philosophical and spiritual. That's
Mhm.
one observation. I don't know if that's universal, but I've seen that in many people. So
Mm.
they're asking, yeah, more with the mental part of a midlife crisis kind of thing. No, I'm just kidding. I think it's a quite um, yeah, human trait that you ask other question, more deeper questions, and that might lead to spirituality in some people, and I think I'm not the only one.
Hmm. And what, in your case, what does spirituality mean in your life? How does it show up?
Actually, yeah, it's basically being aware of there is a lot out there that I don't know, and there is some. It's more like a general feeling that there is a certain energy, and I don't have the right words, and I don't have, for the time being, not even the desire to like rationally explain it. I just
Hmm.
feel it more embodied in myself, so I have a closer connection to my body, which wasn't the case all the time in
Hmm.
my life. And it's basically a more, maybe also a lighthearted, an ease with things. So what I try to learn is more in a rational sense. I get up in the morning, do my stuff, try to do my work the best I can, and be a good father, husband, whatever. And then I outsource things to the universe. So, which in a philosophical sense could also mean that I accept that I cannot control everything.
Hmm.
But in a more spiritual definition, that would be that there might be some power, force, energy, whatever you call that, will lead me where I need to be, or
Right.
and things open up and happen.
Hmm.
And once you do that, and I'm still in the beginner's level, to be honest, I noticed that yeah, things will be good after all, or
Mm.
are there for a reason, and all that kind of stuff. But I think the art is not to like rationally want to define or understand everything, but just letting go, accept things, and just have this embodied feeling that life is good, and something emerges out of it. Emerging is probably a good
Yeah.
word that is connecting. So it's not a religious thing. It's
Hmm.
not a embodied God. It's more like my connection to my environment, surroundings. That means other people, the planet, and something beyond that that I cannot grasp.
Hmm. And you mentioned this embodiment, this feeling it. Do you have a place where it sits, or where you a sensation that you have when you know, hey, this is where I should be going right now? Like this sense of inner knowing is can be a very strong force. I notice it in my life as well, and I'm curious about where it sits in each person. Is it also a subjective experience, or can you learn something like that?
Well, I think there are different parts, and it's hard to like define. I mean, stomach or like that region, gut intuition, I think there is something there where
Yeah.
I can locate it, but it really depends. It's more a more universal, the whole feeling the body, and maybe it sounds quirky, but yeah, just feeling it in the whole body, or
Hmm.
feeling the body itself. And when I meditate, and in those, just being connected to something, and and,
Yeah.
and that's not like particular for one body part or another. It's more a universal thing, and I
Yeah.
think that's it. And I think that is something that I just learned in the last, yeah, start maybe 10 years ago, and 5 years ago, really dug it deeper into that, because on an intellectual level, I intellectualized everything on a cognitive, and I could explain, I even worked with people on that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And I felt something, but not much. But I think this progress was made for me, or learning, biggest learning in the last year, was that the intellectual side, I've moved into the body. I get hard to explain. I don't have the right words, but it's this embodied general feeling that there is another connection, and that just obviously just feels different in a
Yeah.
way that it's not in my head anymore. It just moved into my body. I
Right.
don't have better words for that, but that's what
And
happened.
does it feel like that's where you want to be? So does it make you realize, this is sort of a sense of aliveness or a sense of connectedness, wholeness that you aspire to or that you feel at home in? Maybe I should say
Yeah,
that. Aspire
at
to
home.
sounds like a goal.
That just popped out in my mind was feeling at home or
Yeah.
at ease with
Mm,
myself in
yeah.
those times. I don't have that like 24 hours a day, and I wouldn't, I have my problems with the term enlightenment
Yeah.
in certain stages because there are no goals, and
Hmm.
it's really, once sometimes it feels like people are saying, "Well, I have my troubles with inner development goals, although
Hmm.
I like the idea behind it, and I work with similar frameworks sometimes, but it's not a goal setting. How can you find a goal to be enlightened? It
Mm.
sounds
Hmm.
like a video game where you go
Yeah.
from level to level, and I don't
Yeah.
believe it works that way. So it's a
Okay.
more fuzzy, a more it's a process that there you cannot like define that, and I don't want to define that.
Like more
I'm just
organic, a more organic unfolding.
yeah, maybe. And it's also this letting, if you work on your acceptance and letting go and go that direction, and then you have a rational goal set towards it or define, I want to feel 10% happier and better and whatever it doesn't make sense to me. So it's
Yeah.
more, I go there, I know it feels good and it helps me. And of course, I can describe what changes in my life a bit, but not everything. And it's more yeah, just letting go and accept and go and
Yeah.
be there and walk maybe walk towards something, but you don't know where you're going
Mm.
exactly. So there's
And
this
what are
beautiful
you trying to let go when you walk towards that unknown?
yeah that questioning. I'm a questioner. I always want to know as probably every learner and curious, and I don't want to get rid of that.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
not the thing, but it's also my maybe in those moments, in those embodied moments, I let go of asking questions and just maybe that's the difference between becoming and being. And
Mm.
you also need like on if you have a seesaw or something and you're always seeking and driving and entrepreneurial, wanting to change and wanting to learn and wanting to drive something and have impact,
Hmm.
I've come to believe that you need the other side as well. So you need
Yeah.
to just be. And of course, that sounds esoteric to many people, but it's just sitting and feeling and being enough or
Hmm.
feeling enough and
Yeah.
not having the urge to like understand, drive, change, learn
Right.
at that point. And that is fairly new to me. And it's
Mm.
kind of like a relief because I was more on the other side all the time.
Oh, wow. I like how you say that you can sense a relief, a spaciousness, a space to breathe because of that, not needing to always be forward or achieving something, but being, rather just being in that moment
Yeah,
and
and also
present.
feeling self-compassion. Well, yeah, with yourself,
Yeah.
being yeah maybe reunited with your inner kid.
Yeah.
But I think that those are my terms, my words,
Hmm.
and everybody has to find their own. And I
Yeah.
think there are so many different approaches and ways of doing it. So
Hmm.
I think there's not one way.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my way of doing it.
Yeah. And interesting. I'm not sure if this relates, but it probably does. You are in the process of writing a book. Would you like to share something about this, your own journey, and also related to writing the book? Why are you writing something to bring out into the world, and what are you hoping to do with that?
Actually, that journey is very closely related. So it's my own journey, and I'm writing about transformation. And
Okay.
yeah, so I'm also,
It's a big
yeah,
topic.
big topic. And I did that professionally. I did that, for many, many years.
Yeah.
And that's how I started. And it turned out to be more personal. So I started with leading transformative leadership. That's how I wanted to understand the drivers of transformation, how to make that better. And I ended up on the self-leadership side. So that
Mhm.
is, the whole book, the whole journey took 5 years and still not quite finished, but close to finishing it. And it reflects my journey probably from the head to the body in a way, and to embrace both sides,
Mhm.
the becoming and the being side, and how to not having stability because I don't believe we can gain stability in that world and in us. It's more like balancing things out on
Mm.
that seesaw that I described earlier. And
Yeah.
that is also part of the book and the stuff that you need on both sides and the forces, but also a fulcrum to like have it on something. You need a foundation
Right.
and that kind of stuff. So yeah, the book is basically the journey and about all those things in order to. And the book is intended to, first of all, to like have my journey, put it maybe to a consolidated state where I can put my thoughts together. So it's
Hmm.
first of all a book for me
Mm.
and my journey.
Yeah.
But yeah, of course, I hope that I can also help other people in order to open their imaginations, their ideas on how to, first of all, enter into that world or that question and then see where that leads them. It's not a method book where it
Mhm.
has the 10 steps to enlightenment. It's more about inspirations and some framework, some guidelines on how to explore yourself or oneself in
Yeah.
that state of uncertainty that we're all in, or most
Yeah.
of the people are. Yeah.
Yeah, and also I am aware of the time, so I'll have a few more things to say, and then we'll close. I'm also aware that writing a book is a giving birth, almost is a transformation of yourself in the process of writing. Could you say a little bit about that as well?
That is so true. I mean it's my first big book. I've written smaller abstracts, chapters and workbooks before. And yeah, it's probably teaches you so much about yourself,
Yeah.
about your fears. Perfectionism is one thing
Mm.
I've learned a lot about and reflect. So I think it's almost therapeutic in a way where you deal with yourself, self-coaching, and that's super interesting. It's super scary at sometimes, but because you're confronted with your inner shadows and demons every once in a while. And I maybe that's not the case if you're writing a book about a topic that doesn't affect you, but
Mm.
it's basically my journey. So that's a natural thing that comes up.
Yeah.
And that's super interesting. It costs a lot of energy. Maybe that's why it's taking or took longer than expected. But yeah, so that's super. It's kind of like a mirror when you're
Yeah.
forced to sit down, and there's this notion of in writing is apply as in chair and just sit there, and you also sit with yourself. So it's
Yes.
almost and then you're staring at a blank page and then you get into go into dialogue with yourself
Yeah.
and that's on a meta level. It's not the words that appear on the page.
Hmm.
It's about the feeling and the settlement inside
Yeah.
yourself that pops up.
Yeah.
But
Really
I'm still
beautiful.
in that journey. I'm not finished yet, so next
Okay.
time we talk I can tell you more
Tell me
probably.
more. Yeah, tell us more about the book the next time. And to close, would you like to share something with the listeners that really shaped you in terms of an awesome experience or a feeling of maybe awe in an uncomfortable way, in an awkward or anxious way? It could be anything that really shapes the course of your life, of your decisions.
That is a tough question because I think that there are so many things, especially when you go out to nature, but also in meeting people. And I just had a conversation with a woman that I met on LinkedIn, and we had a professional chat, and then we didn't know each other and we synchronized so beautifully and it just that was all on the human connection side when you meet somebody. I think when we met and worked together it was in a similar fashion. That happens to me a lot actually.
Mm,
And then you just have this feeling of resonance that creates all
yes.
coming back to the beginning of our conversation.
Yeah.
But it's also, yeah, in nature and looking at the stars and all that kind of stuff, those moments. But it can also be in a very mundane, everyday life moments. Even if you look at something seemingly ugly for a longer time, or can come up. It can
Yeah.
come up in art, but it can also be in simple things and items. And Yeah, even in walnuts. I
Yes,
remember that.
we should keep this a secret for now, but we'll definitely get into the walnut story later.
Yeah.
Nice. Really good. Thank you so much for sharing what you think about awe and also how you feel it and what your experience with it is. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. It was a learning experience. Also, this half an hour, I learned a lot about myself. So that's the same with writing and talking about it and trying to verbalize feelings is super difficult, especially for me,
Mhm.
but it helps a lot.
It does.
And you have this art of making people talk in that and open up in that way, at least to me.
Mhm.
And thank you so much for that.
Well, you're very welcome. And yeah, like I said, I really enjoyed the conversation.